favourite topic, Kumihimo. So welcome everybody. Thanks so much for joining us today. Let me just work out how to click. Oh, switch the video off now. Hello everybody. Thank you so much for joining us today. So I'm Donna from Riverside Beads. Good to see some familiar faces on here today. Thank you. So today I'm going to look at one of my favourite topics, which is Kumihimo. So I've covered Kumihimo before, and it's always worth sort of, if you want to check back on the basic techniques, going back over the videos. I'll try and remember some of your core techniques you're going to need to know today. But what I thought I'd do this time is send you sort of like show how to do some different things with it, such as starting in different ways, how to start with a button, fastening. It won't be the full thing because that in itself would be a full sort of class, but I thought if I did some of the techniques, and you can excuse the camera in the way, but it's working hopefully on the overhead one. And I thought it'd be really nice to just show you some of the ways that I start my Kumihimo, depending what sort of braid I'm doing. So let me flick the camera over and we can get started. So do pop any of your questions on, and I will do my best to get to them through the session as well. I'm not quite sure how long we'll need for this, because I mean, this is aspects of this are a sort of a 3-4 hour class really to go through everything, but I wanted to cover some of the core things. So I'm going to assume I can see some faces who are not beginners at all to Kumihimo, but I do want to assume that you're watching this, you may be a beginner to it. So ultimately I'm working on a braided Kumihimo today, which will be this. And I'll go through the tools that I use. So we've got the round Kumihimo disc. So this is the small version. Let me just bring in the larger version as well. So this is a large disc. Now the size of the disc doesn't change the size of the braid that you get. So I describe it as handability. So if you prefer to hold the bigger one because you want a bit more substance when you're braiding, then that's the one for you. If you prefer the sort of smaller compact one, or you're thinking travel or something like that, then the smaller one. Some people there are thought processes that the smaller one, if you're doing beading, we're not going to cover that today, but the smaller one, you can kind of tuck the beads under, it's less space to move them. So that can be a preference. Personally, I think with doing so much braiding, I have a lot of discs and it's whichever one's free that day. So I've grabbed the two that I'm going to sort of set up today, or both happen to be smaller ones. I probably just don't have any spare big ones at the moment. I've either got a demo on them, or we have one set up in the shop, so I can just briefly show people if they come in and things. So yeah, my two empty ones happen to both be small ones. So that's your Kumihimo disc. I've got my beginner's guide to Kumihimo that has been out for a good 2-ish years now, maybe even 3 years. But thankfully, it's a timeless guide. So it's a guide that is beginners, but also for those of you, and I know you're very supportive with this book, and that those of you that have got it have worked through some of the designs, and they're not all, they are all suitable for beginners, but they're not all completely beginners. So you'll get pattern variations, you'll get more detail on button and loops. I'm going to show you a bit of this one as well today, which is a popper, how you can work through it. Oh, so you ordered it through the library. So yes, great idea. So yes, your libraries can get the book because it's out there publicly. You can get it from your kind of bookshops, but obviously we sell the book as well. So we've got this online. We also do starter collections of it. So you buy the book and some basic materials to make, say, your braided one to get started, or the book and perhaps a kit for one of the beaded projects or something. So we have lots of options for you there. So this is the 12 projects that it covers. So it goes right from a braided one right through the basic beaded ones, and then it starts to cover techniques. So this is an inside out and a button and loop fastening. This one works from a central point and you braid off. So each of these then becomes the skill set that you've got to recreate further projects. So it might be you use that skill but do it from a charm or something in the middle. That one there is this beautiful gainer necklace in a different colour. So when you're in the gold, that's the latest one we did. So yeah, you've got all the different techniques in here, and yeah, we do the the projects as well, Lisa's just mentioned. So each of these we've got projects, and then we do different colorways in it as well. So we've got the little flower one. I think we've got, we've done a poppy in it, we've done all sorts of different, and if we can, we turn them into kits for you. So there's lots of different things when it comes to Kumihimo, and I wanted today to be about the starting of it. That's just one of the core techniques, but I thought if I did a few different ways, those of you that have perhaps not tried a button one or something may be able to get something from it as well. Each of the steps is very, very thorough. I work with fabulous publishers at Search Press who really did take the most beautiful photos and really worked until we got the instructions how we wanted them to be. So yes, that's available. It's trying to remember the price, £8.99. So it's available from ourselves as just the book, or you can obviously get it with some sort of kit as well. Sean, good question. So yes, do you keep a specific disc for beaded, basically, I think is the thing. So for particular threads, absolutely. So both of these are suitable for, well, I've been using them for the beaded ones, but today I'm afraid I am going to use them for braided, just to get started. So you are absolutely right. What it does is if you use it for the braided one, it will widen the slots. So I will probably use one of these for the braided, but then that will have to, it basically doesn't hold them, which is what Sean's saying. So it's absolutely right. It doesn't grip them once you've used it for the wider threads. So do keep a particular one and keep it. So both of these were beaded ones, but one of them is now going to have to become a braided. We're just waiting for our new delivery of our own discs, so I shall treat myself to a couple when it gets here. So that's it. Yeah, I mean, unfortunately, that does mean potentially having more than one disc. But if you're watching this as a brand new beginner, don't feel you're going to have to buy 10 discs. That's absolutely not the case. One would be fine, two would be useful. So that's certainly an option. These little things here are called bobbins. So bobbins are particularly for beaded Kumihimo. So they open up like that. They can be used for corded one, but what you do is you wind the cord around them, so the cord or the cord with the beads on, wind it round, pop back shut again, like that. So, and then that makes it suitable to you know, just one, it gives a bit of weight. So if it's a light cord, or you know, if your slots there are going slightly looser because you have used them for cord you didn't want to, and it widens them, this can sometimes just save it a little bit. So you can weigh it down with a bobbin. We also do weighted ones that have like a metal piece in them, which will weigh it down even more, and that can help keep your tension as well. So yes, so that's absolutely well worth doing. So there are your bobbins, and there are all sorts of tools, but ultimately if we're talking beginner, which is how I was thinking today's video would be, a pair of scissors, some glue, so some E6000 glue, which I haven't grabbed my glue today, and yeah, and your disc and your cord, and you can, and it's not an expensive craft to get going with, so it's well worth just biting the bullet with it and sort of having a go. So we shall get started, and I'm not needing a bead mat, so I always feel a bit lost when I haven't got my bead mat in front of me, because I'm not going to do a beaded one today. I'm just going to do the braided one. So I'm going to start with, I'll come back to the basic one in a moment. I'm going to start with some of the other options. So I'm going to start with a button fastening. Okay, let's just get that one ready. Bear with me. A bit of a tangled mess here with all my cords. So let's have a look here. I nail varnished this earlier and forgot to check if they were sticking together, and they were. So let me explain that bit to you. So this one, I was thinking, oh, if I get this set up, I can, I've been meaning to make a beaded one on a button for a while. So I thought I've actually set it up as a proper thing, then I can do that one at a later date. Okay, so here's my cord. So this was actually macrame cord. So 0.6 macrame cord is great for beaded Kumihimo, or an S-lon. So the book refers to S-lon, but actually in reality, it just depends what I've got in my stash. So I happen to have this at the ready, and I thought, right, that's perfect for today's project. So I'm going to it's going to be very simple what I'm going to show you with this. I just want to show you how to set up a button fastening. So this is just one of the ways. So what I've done in advance is get my cords ready. So I've got 4 1 meter lengths of cord, which will be to make a bracelet. And I've just had a delivery of E6000 put on my desk, which is fabulous. So I'll be able to show you that when I get to that bit. I was going to just pretend I had some glue. I've got myself in a tangle already. Bear with me. Oh, I've sussed this star thing out. Thank you, guys. Thank you, Sean and Wendy. Thank you. It's very kind. So I'm understanding what it is now. It's sort of like a yeah, like almost a tip or something, isn't it? To sort of say, I'm watching, I'm with you. And yeah, it's nice. Thank you so much. So once I get myself in an untangle. So this is 0.6 macrame cord, which is ultimately for a beaded one. But the process I want to set up is to show you how to start different types of endings. So I've pre-done I've nail varnished the ends of these. So I'll just explain why. So with the cords, say you want to fit some nice sort of size 8 seed beads or something on, or even going smaller than that. The ends of the cords, if you nail varnish them, if I just hold that there, let me make sure we're in view properly. I view that more that way. Yeah, okay. So if I now varnish the ends of these, if you look when I touch that, that's like a little needle. It's not going anywhere. So that's fabulous because then the ends are ready to pick up the beads. So it becomes like little needles because you can't thread a needle on this because what it does is double it up and just makes it too chunky to get through some of the beads. So if you turn the cord into a little needle, that will make that ready. And it also helps with things like this process that we're doing here, trying to get this through the button clasp. So what I'm doing is I'm taking my cords. I've got 4 cords, so ultimately we're going to end up with 8, but the way that we're going to do it is this way. So we're going to thread through, let me get that through there. So I might have to do 2 or 3 at a time just to, and then push the last one through. So I've managed to get 3 through there, and I'll just push my last one if I can squeeze that in there. So this is why the nail varnish helps, because it strengthens it and just makes it able to go through. So I've got that through, so I've done all 4 through one side of the clasp, and I then need to sort of go roughly halfway. So just measuring, let me quite see how I'm stretching that out, but I'm just checking if I'm halfway, and then I'm threading that back down through the opposite side. So back down through there. Again, might have to just do 2 or 3 and then try and squeeze the last ones through. So I'm pushing those in, through, and then the last one. This is how to do a button fastening. I won't get to the loop bit, but it just sort of shows you how to start your Kumihimo. Just that last one we're trying to squeeze through. See, what happens is if you push it too much, the end softens a bit, and you'll really see the difference that makes. I'm going to try and hide it in the middle there. And see if I can just sort of pull it through. Got it. Oh no. Oh, it jumped out again. No. Okay, let's move them out the way and see if we can just squeeze that last one through. So what I'm going to do is just pull those down, so all them cords down to the bottom of the hole. Let me explain what I mean by that. So I'm pulling that down, so I've tightened them up, and it's just going to free me that space in the hole. It wasn't behaving the other way, so that just gives you a bit of room to do that. So these sort of setups are not always the easiest, but they're certainly a solution if you're looking to do a fastening in this way. I mean, some buttons obviously might have slightly bigger holes, so you might not quite have that trouble getting those through. So where are we at? Okay, so that's all just got a bit tangled. That last one I put through, so we'll just straighten that out. You can't sort of do too much wrong at this stage because all I'm trying to do is thread them through. So all you can do is just undo them if you're not happy with it. That will do roughly just to show you. Now, the key thing, so let me show you what we've done. Gone through that button with the cords. So I've got 4 going up through the hole and then back down through the hole. Now, the other thing we want to do at this point is check that they are matching up in the sides. So one of those is particularly short, right? That was probably that one I was fiddling to get through. So just pull that. So you need to make sure that all the ends are equal, just there, or roughly equal. So long as one isn't right up here, because otherwise when you start braiding, you come to the other side, it will end up using up all of the one cord first. So Sean's just asked on the nail varnish. I have gone clear, and I just go like, I used to have like a kind of strong tip one or something like that. But to be honest, I just go with whatever I've got, whatever clear nail varnish I've got. If I haven't got clear, I've been known to put blue and purple and all sorts. But clear looks better when I'm showing you guys. Leave it to completely dry, so really make it so they're a nice tip. Now I do know that some people use glue. Heidi, one of my colleagues, she tends to use a glue on there as well. Absolutely fine as well if you want to put a glue on. Just make sure you're not clumping the ends up there, because otherwise you're making it harder to get it through the hole. So yeah, just make sure that you're just getting that right. So this then becomes the start. So let me show you what would happen with this one. That button would go through the centre bit there, and you would set these up on the cord. So this then becomes starting a Kumihimo braid. So we're using that button as one of our options. I'm going to show you the other options in a moment. So then what we're going to do is take these cords and position them where we want them. So I'm setting this up as an 8 braid Kumihimo. So I'm going north, east, south and west, and I'm having 2 cords either side of that. Now I'm doing these in pairs, which is completely fine if you are able to do that. If not, just take single ones, position them in either side of north, east, south and west. Some of these discs just have dots on, but they have them positioned in those places. So they have them on where the north, east, south and west would be. So pop those in like that. Okay, now what you could do, I've ended up going all 4 of them over there and all 4 over there. If you wanted to just sort of mix it up, I don't know if you can quite see what I'm doing, but just rather than those ones all being at the top and those all at the bottom, I'm just switching these over so they're already equally distributed at the back there of the button. I honestly don't think it makes much odds, because what we're going to do is start braiding it and using that button there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just start showing you on this one, which will be it's going to be a beaded one when I make what I'm making on it, but I'll just start it as a braided one, which is the beginner's part of the Kumihimo braiding. Okay, make sure you can see me. Right, so here's what we do. So I've started one of the fastenings. I'm going to show you some of the other openers in a moment, but here's how we do our Kumihimo braiding. We take the top right cord out of this. So this is a nice lightweight disc with little slots in it. And as we were just talking about earlier on today, these slots hold it nice and tight if you've got a nice tight tension and a disc that you've kept for certain types of cords. You can see it's completely holding the tension on this cord for me. It's keeping it nice and taut over there. I don't feel the need to put bobbins on this. I can just see that's holding that really taut. If it didn't, I could put some bobbins on as extra weight, but just like we were saying, keep one of your discs that you use for braiding. So we take that top right one out from there and we pop it down to the bottom right. Then we take our bottom left cord out from there and up to the top left. So that's our first move. Quarter turn it anti-clockwise and then repeat. So right goes down to right, left goes up to left. Keep turning round. So right to right, left to left, turn, and then repeat. Right goes down to right again, left goes up to left again. So this is 8 braid Kumihimo. Now it's all with one colour cord, so we've not had to talk about that yet. I'm going to talk about that in a moment. So this is, you can just create a braided cord. So just this will come out quite thin because it's the macrame cord. You don't have to add beads onto it, although I've prepped it for that. And you can just keep braiding in this way and create a thin cord, which makes a beautiful kind of friendship style braid. Now I'm just going to grab hold of that button, give that a little wiggle just to put it into its natural tension. I want to try and just do a few braids so you can see, hopefully, if I just speed up a little, and then you're able to see the braid coming out at the bottom. So the process is top down, bottom up, and turning round to the next one. And just keep going. So you keep going with this until you're happy. Now, if you were adding beads, at some point soon, I would start to introduce them. And then you would end up with a braided part at the beginning, which is where your loop would go over. This is your button part of the clasp, and then the loop side of it and that would go, and then your loop would go over that, and then you would start adding beads ready for your bracelet. So hopefully that should be enough to show you. So I'm going to reach under that button, give that a wiggle. Let's see what we can see. We've got a nice shiny button in the way. Let me get the camera right. How's that picture? Can you see that? So you can see I've got my button there, and then in there I've got the braided part. So that's just starting to come away. So the button becomes part of your braid. It also becomes your clasp. And then I've got my braided part there. So that would be that. So if we wanted to carry on with that, we could do that, and we would get a finished braid that comes out about this sort of thickness. So this is done on the 0.6 macrame cord. It's actually two colours, if you can see close enough. It's blue and green though, so it's quite subtle colours together. But that makes just a gorgeous basic sort of friendship braid. Really lovely to do 2 or 3 of these as like stacker bracelets together. So that's that one. So that's how that could come out. But this cord is then suitable for adding your beads onto. So this bracelet could be this one, but with a button fastening at the start of it. So you can work on either a pattern that you've got, one of our patterns from our book, one of our extra kits that we've done with different patterns in, and do your braid of choice, but with a button and loop fastening. So that's one of the ways. Let's have a look at one of the other ways to start. So I'm probably going to just take this one off actually, so I can use this same disc for a moment, and then I'm going to look at this sort of fastening. So this, I've got half of it done here. So this is a popper fastening. So this popper, let's just get this off. It's quite tricky to get them off till they're on your bracelet. So here's the base of it. So this is the popper base, and these are interchangeable. So then you buy these different poppers. They have that little bit on the back, and they pop onto the centre bit there. But what you can do with these is Kumihimo braid off them, macrame off them, bead off them, etc. Through the little bit. Now, same thing as the button. The cord really has to be prepared to go through that. So I've got one that I haven't got my beaded side on, so you can see it's sort of in its raw form. So this is the fastening. So you buy these popper findings here with the 2 little loops. So that's that bit, and then you put the cord through in the same way that I have there with the button clasp. So I've prepared the ends, now varnished them to go through. All the measurements, instructions are in the book, so if you wanted to create this one, it's actually quite a small amount because you're only creating half the braid rather than the full bracelet. So it's quite a small amount of cord that you need for this one. Still make sure that's equal. So this is a great example of it not being equal, and that would cause problems when we were braiding that through. So it was just the one again that needed adjusting. So that's ready to go. So that's been thread through the little loop on this. And then when it's finished, you'll choose your popper. And then that's the bit that makes this really lovely. You can interchange these and swap your poppers, which gives it a really nice finish. So first thing we would do would be that. Then we would add our large hole bead. And our large hole bead would go, we could actually start the braiding and then add the bead on, or do it at this stage. It doesn't massively matter. So the large hole bead goes over all of those. We choose a large hole one because it has to get all 8 strands through, whereas the end of the popper only had to get the 4 through, and the button bit only had to get 4 through. This has got to get all of them through, so that goes through quite easily. And then also it has to slide and go over this. So this is a popper fastening, so I've explained what they are, but this could also be a connector charm. So it could be, we've got some lovely connector charms on our new website. So got the connector charm, and then you've got loops either side of it, and that's then perfect for doing exactly this technique. And that goes over there, so it fits with ease. It's not a tight fit, it's a real comfortable fit from this particular large hold bead. So we've got a selection of the large hold beads as well online. So then this bit, like the button bit, goes in the center of the disc. This is another way to start your Kumihimo braid. You start from a connector or a charm or a popper fastening like this, and that goes through that center. We've got the large hole bead on there, which we could sort of braid a little section and feed it through, but I'm going to do it this way for now. And again, we fasten these either side of north, east, south, west. So I'm only covering 8 braid on this one to save confusion, because I wanted it to be about the different ways really to start particularly. So I'm just fitting those either side of north, east and south and west. But don't forget, once you've learned these skills, you can then try different braids. So there are lots of different braids where you use different numbers of cords and such things as well. So I've got those either side of north, east, south and west. And that one's set up again. So you can see there, I've got under there, we've got the popper fastening, which becomes, it's almost like a bit of a weight as well, because it already dangles down before we even start. We've got the large hole bead on there, which will then become that part there. And then the process is just the same. So if we remember our braiding, it's top right down, bottom left up, top right down, bottom left up. Now this will sort of almost start to braid in here in a moment, and then it will start to come out the top of the popper. The top right down, bottom left up, and it's a, you repeat this process. There we go. It's sort of braided a little bit inside there, and then it will start to braid on the outer. So that's another way to start your Kumihimo braid. So we've covered 2 so far. We've covered a button fastening to start with that, and then we've covered a kind of connector or a popper charm fastening or something like this. So that then becomes, so that starts to come out. And if you imagine that one, that went down that way. So it went with a popper and that down that way, and then this had its beads added onto it. So this one is set up ready to finish that one, the other side, go through there. And then the popper part, if I just go through that, literally pops, you get a little pop on it. It's nice and secure. You saw me having trouble getting it off almost, but when it's on your braid and it's connected, you just seem to have a bit more substance, and you can sort of get it off a little easier. This one's quite a tight fit around the rim there. So, but yeah, you'll be able to just interchange those, but without them falling off. You do need them secure, because if it's obviously going to be on a bracelet and you're wearing that, you don't want it something that's falling off. But this is a gorgeous project. I love this one. Doesn't really use too many beads either. It doesn't use as many as a full beaded bracelet, because you're only beading a small section. This becomes a massive part feature. And then depending on what fastening you're doing, that also takes another inch or so at the back. So yeah, it's a good project to work with, this one is. So that's your popper fastening, how to start using that. So that's 2 of your options. And then it may end up being 4 ways I was going to show you actually. I've just got 2 other ways I wanted to show with it. So this is regular satin cord. So this I've got 4 pieces of this in 2 colours. So this is then how you create your double stripe, like this one. So I've got those lined up. 2 of them are actually slightly longer, but I'm just going to ignore that bit for now. So what I'm going to do with this one, oh, I might trim it up because it's going to annoy me. And I need a spare bit. So with this one, I've gone 4 lengths still, and I'm taking a spare piece of cord and tying it in the middle. So I really like this. This is one of the ways I use a lot to start, because what it does, it gives you a really neat end. Well, it's the beginning, but when it becomes the end, it's sort of a bullet end to do. So I'm tying that spare piece of cord in a double knot over the centre there. And when that basically slides out at the end and gives you this really neat end to glue into your end cap. But it can be a useful technique because of the neatness of that end, if you want to sort of have that showing as part of your design, depending what you make. If you're making some sort of key ring or something and you want it to be part of your display, it's really neat for that. So again, with this, we push it through here and set it. But what we do is put those little tail ends of that under there. So the little tail ends go underneath there, and then we set the cord up on the top. Now, just because this is slippy and because it's only knotted by the same sort of cord, it can be a little bit slippier. So this is really important we don't over pull these. So I'm just getting these, and then we've also factoring in a pattern here, which I'm going to talk to you about briefly. So what I'm doing is either side of north, east, south and west, but the cords that you use, as in there's 2 factors really, the colour of the cord you use will change the braid finish. So if we did this in white and purple, you'd obviously get a white and purple stripe out of it. but the way you lay your cords out as well. So I've laid these out, white either side of north and south and the teal either side of east and west, and that's going to give me this. That's going to give me a very defined stripe. And that's determined by how we lay it out here. What I mean by that is if I flicked these about at this stage before I start braiding, and even something like that creates a nice pattern. In the book I'll put various things like this so you can see how they look, but if we just flicked those about, so we're alternating sort of a white teal around there, that would make a more mottled effect on our braid. So rather than that real defined stripe, it would sort of be a bit more, it's still a pattern, but it's a bit more random rather than the whole stripe of teal and a whole stripe of purple like that one shows. So that's that, but that's just, so I won't actually braid that one. Might not upset my disc too much if I take it off now as well. Tying it in the middle, pushing it through and setting that up there. So that's that one. Let's get that off the disc a moment. And then the final way I wanted to show you for setting them up as well is this. So this gives you 4 colour possibilities by doing it this way. If you take your cord, just untie that. I'm going to have to cut this one to show you this technique. It never goes to waste, so I will use this bit for this technique that I'm showing you. So I've cut that into 8. So what this gives you is a design freedom to choose up to 8 colours, different colours of cord, so to make like a multi-effect one. And this also gives you possibilities such as creating tassels and things, because you can then create a tassel, sort of knot it up here and include the tassel as part of your design at the beginning of it. If you don't want, if it's not a bracelet or something, you don't want to glue it into an end cap, you could create a neater, rather than that big knot, you could do more of a wrapped loop or something there. Just tying that up nice and tight. And then this gives you another possibility. So you would do it, you would probably need it longer than this, but it's just to show you the start. So you can leave that in there. We could create a neater wrap with that there. And then we've got 8 cords that we're going to put into place, but it's this knot and all the tassel if you want to include that. If you don't, you can just knot it quite near to the end there. And then that tassel-y part goes in there. So I'm holding that underneath the disc again. And then these get laid out like we were doing. So we've got 8 bits of cord now, but actually we did cut this one into 8. So then we've got design possibilities that we could have had 8 different colours. We can still create our patterns. So some people just do it this way anyway. So you can still do your stripes, you can do your mottled, you can alternate them, like I've gone teal, white, teal. I could go teal, and then I could go white. So my advice when you're trying out patterns like this is, if I was trying this pattern and I wanted to see what it started as and what it finished as, I take a little photo of what, or even draw it out. So just draw a circle with some coloured lines and mark which colours you put where, but photographs are really good. Photograph on your phone, braid it through, and then photograph what your braid looks like. And that's how I get to some of my basic patterns from the braiding here, by working it out that way. But so you can see there lots of different ways I have started my Kumihimo braiding. There are endless possibilities with that. So we've done the knotting technique, pushing that through. We've done the technique where we started with 4 pieces and tied the spare piece in the middle. We've done the technique where we started from a charm, a double-sided charm or a popper fastening, and did this technique where we popped a large whole bead over this, but you don't have to cover it, but that was an option as well. And then we've done the button fastening as well. So I've covered briefly patterns, colours, how to lay them out and things, and I've also covered different types of cord to use. But Kumihimo is such a flexible braid, so it just allows you to experiment, really. I mean, we couldn't go much thicker with the cord through here, so that's about what I can do through this button. But if you had larger whole buttons, you could use a thicker cord and braid with it. You can throw in a strand of yarn to give it a kind of fluffy look, and one of my projects in my book, I did just that, put some kind of fluffy yarn through it, which just gave a different finish. The other thing is the numbers of cord that you use. So this piece here it's a sort of wrap. I made it a slightly bigger piece, could be a small necklace, I guess, for somebody, but I actually made it as like a wrap round bracelet like that. But if you look, I just want to sort of point out the braid structure there. That one is the same thickness of cord to start with, so it's still done in this 2mm satin. I think it might be a 1.5, but I think it is a 2mm. But it's only a 4 braid structure. Now that is one of the patterns I cover in the book as well as you go further through. So I've been working only on the 8 braid today, but within the my book we've got a 4 braid, a 12 braid, 7 strand as well. So yeah, plenty of design possibilities with it. Different braid structure, different layout, but ultimately the processes I've shown you today, you could start any of those braid structures in that way. So some people like the thinner effect but want it to form quicker. So with this one, it forms quicker than this one. So this sort of thinner braid there. Excuse me. Oh dear, it's hay fever time here in Market Deeping. I've lasted really well, I think, because the rain's been it's been so wet and dismal and winter-like. Really, it's I've managed not to get hay fever, but I think it's coming from today on, which along with the sun, hopefully. So, oh, thank you, Eva. That's a lovely recommendation for the book. Bless you. It's, if you're just wanting to try what I've shown you today, you've got enough skill set to just give it a go. But for you to work through some of the different braids and work through things like the beaded ones and the flowers, and really work at pattern-based projects. So that's a flower one. This one here's got 4 colours of beads. That's a pattern-based project. So I really try in the book to give you lots of guidance on the different projects that are available and different braid structures as well. So we call it a beginner's one, but I think it's a nice progression book as well to work through. So it doesn't just leave you with, I've made that one project, I've made that what's next, which you will absolutely want to do. And you'll soon be wanting to do beautiful beaded pieces like this. So bizarrely, this one is 8 braid, exactly what I've been the basic principles today, but just with different bead patterns and things to do that. So I don't think I've missed any questions today. Oh, thank you. Everyone said bless me for sneezing. How very kind of you. I was trying to find the mute button and I couldn't find it quickly enough, so I'm sorry, you did just have to have that sneeze. Thank you, everybody. Yeah, I think I picked up all your questions. So I just wanted to briefly show you a finishing. It's going to be a basic sort of here's what you would do, because I haven't actually got a part done one that isn't finished. So what we would do is we would get to the end of our braid. In fact, this one's probably the nearest one I've got. So we would get to the end of our braid such as this, and we've got all this spare cord. So at that point, we would, you can glue it and cut it off, but it does sometimes make it a little bit chunky. So actually what we tend to do is get a thinner piece of cord. I'm going to do it with this, so you see in the sort of size of it really. But it would be the end of your braid and it would be a thin cotton, but I just want to show you in principle how it would work. So you would take a spare piece of cotton and you would tie it round so it would be secured on. This is all very over exaggerated, hopefully, so you can see it. But again, if you're going for the book or one of our kits or something, we try and cover this in there as well, but the book particularly does a lot about the endings. So you would take this and you would wrap this round. Now ignore the fact it's attached to all of that. Wrap it round 2 or 3 times like this. So what you're doing is you're binding that like so. So we're binding around there, and then that would tie off with the spare bit that you left there. Like so, a couple of times, okay? So what you would do, that's bound there. So imagine this is your braid, you bind it there, and then what you do is you add maybe a little bit of glue onto that and cut the ends off when it's dry so it's neater, and then you chop that above that. So what that gives you is a really nice neat end that you glue into an end cap. So I'm just going to find that in the book just to show you a finished one. So you can see the thoroughness of the steps you get here to do it. But ultimately what I'm doing is binding round, adding a drop of glue, cutting it off above it, which gives you sort of like it gives you that sort of style end. That's the first end there that we've finished. But you're cutting it off, adding some glue into the end cap, which I want to just show you the end caps now, and then pushing it in. So this is if you're going with a glued one. So that would be that type of fastening. Of course, if you're doing your button and loop, you're not going to actually use glue because you're going to have a button one end and you're going to have a loop the other. So you don't use any glue on that. So let me just show you an end cap. I have a stash, so you don't see my little stash. So yeah, once you get addicted, I'm afraid, but ultimately there are just a couple of common sizes, one of them being an 8mm, and I use that for my 2mm satin cord, and then the other one being a sort of 5mm, 6mm one, and they're useful for your macrame cord, your beaded ones, your US long ones. So, but those of you that got our lovely little bead gauges, we sell these about $2.50, something like that. Or those of you that are our bead box members got one of these free a couple of months ago, and you can measure. One, you can measure your size of your end cap, and two, you can measure the finished braid. So this is brilliant for sizing up your braid to sort of say, right, okay, that comes in at, to squash it, I get it into a 7mm one, but actually if I let it sit in its natural tension around it, read your measurement there, and we're on an 8mm. So that's my 8mm end cap. And you can see that just fits nice and smooth. It's exactly the right length I need that to be for that type of braid. So that's that one. So yes, and we try and give you, we're sort of trying to give you the interior measurement of the clasp is what we're trying to do, because ultimately that is the bit that's going to fit on there. There's very little in it, it's about 1mm, but some, you know, that does make a difference sometimes. So we're trying on the new website, we've tried to mark inner and outer measurement, and if we haven't, we are going to, that's going to be added, so it's not on all of them. So yes, so that's that one there. And so what you would do is you would separate your end cap, put your D6000 glue. We've got this in stock. I know it keeps having trouble in the UK getting this sometimes. So, but we've got this size tube, which is 26mm, and we've also got, I think it's a 54mm or something tube. So we've got both of those. We've got them, I think, both online and both in stock as well at the moment. So you just undo your cap, squeeze kind of a tiny bit, really. I describe it as about a quarter of a capful, quarter to a third. But what you need to remember, and you sort of push it in and scrape it off on the edge so it's not glooping out everywhere. This is a very silicone based glue, but it's a glue that's designed to glue metal and fabric. So it glues your fabric of your satin cord or your beaded cords, and it also glues onto the metal. So pop that in there, and then you would push your end cap in. So imagine this one's been cut off, and you push that into there, squidge it around, and then you leave it set. So basically, if it fits tightly, you just sort of squidge it around and then leave it to set there. If you need to sort of position it, like if I was, say I only had this giant cap and I wanted to use it on here, you could use it, but you would have to go a little bit gloopier on your glue, and you would have to sort of just position it so it sits comfortably on the braid, and then sort of leave it to dry like that. It does dry overnight, so it does take quite a while to dry, and leave it overnight, and then that'll be ready for you the next day. So as long as it's a good glue, you know, E6000, we also stock Zap It, which is an American brand glue, same sort of consistency as well. And that one's really good for it. High flow cement is also really good for this, but it uses a lot of it, and it's much more liquidy than this one. So if you were doing something, particularly one that you needed a lot of glue, it would use an awful lot of it. So certainly if you're needing to get a glue, the E6000 is definitely worth investing in. So that's really the only end cap I was going to particularly cover today. We've got the button and loop fastening within the book. So if I show you the finished thing, I love this fastening because whilst I have used, I think it is actually a plastic one on there, it looks a bit metally, but you could use a plastic button. So for anybody that's sort of got allergies or doesn't like wearing metal or doesn't want to wear metal, a button and loop fastening is fabulous. So the original bit I've already shown you today. So it was starting through a button, it doesn't have to be a 2-hole. You can see I've got a nice 4-hole there, and you can go over and cross it. It looks really cute. Braid a little section with no beads or a fully braided one. It's very versatile. Then we did our project on this one. And then when I come to the end, I braid a section here without any beads on. So this is how this one gets finished. You do a braided section, make it into a loop like that, wrap that round there. We explained how to finish it, or there's a bit more to it than that. Wrap it around and sort of pull it under, maybe with a bit of glue as well. And then that goes over there. So I love this fastening. It's really cute. It can be a feature, so you could actually have that at the top of your bracelet. You get a nice button. How cute does that look? And the one that I was using earlier, we've actually got these online. They're a gorgeous button clasp. If you just put button clasp on our new website, it will hopefully find that for you. And we do them in this new rose gold, silver and gold as well, so they are absolutely gorgeous. Might even have a black one in it too. So they are stunning, really nice for your beaded projects. I used them earlier. I was on Create and Craft, and I used them for our background bracelet. Really versatile for that as well. Just a nice way to finish it, but great for Kumihimo too. So I think that's everything. Thank you for those lovely reviews of my book, guys. You guys are just awesome. Thank you. Yeah, the rainbow swirl as well, Helen. So yeah, we've not got the rainbow in the book, but I love the rainbow. So we've done an extra pattern for the book. So if you can't sort of work it from the book and develop it, we've done an extra kitten pattern for this beautiful rainbow design as well, which gives you 6 stripes. Which are fabulous. So thank you guys. I really appreciate the reviews. When you do something like a book, your absolute heart and soul goes into it, and I'm very passionate about Kumihimo anyway, so very grateful that you're enjoying it as well. So thank you. I think that's everything I need to cover today. So thank you so much, all of you that have popped by today. And sorry if you're sick of seeing me. I was obviously on Create and Craft earlier as well. So and I'll be back next Wednesday again. Now, where am I next Wednesday? Let's think. Okay, so we're not, for those of you that are our Beadbox members, your box is going out. They're giving us another bank holiday, which makes it tight to get it out again. So it'll be out by Monday, I suspect, hopefully over the weekend. So you'll get that sort of by mid-ish next week. So I can't do next week as the reveal because you might not have your box. So I'm doing them on the Saturday again. I quite like doing them on the Saturday. It may always stick to that. We'll see how it falls. So I'm doing the reveal here on the main page at let me think which order I've got it in. 10 o'clock I'm over doing the tutorial one for members in our Riverside Beadbox page, and 11:30 I'm here doing a reveal. So on the reveal I don't show too much of the technique at that stage. If you remember though, you get the full tutorial, and sometimes I dip back in and do little bits of it on here as well, but I certainly show you what you're probably missing if you're not in the Beadbox group. So if you are a member, you'll get the full tutorial in there as well. I'm having to be very careful not to tell you what it is again. I'm terrible because I prep it so early. I'm dying to tell you or show you it, and I'm not allowed. It's a bit of a top secret thing. We've decided between us, haven't we, guys? Those of you that are members, we decided it's top secret until at least the bulk of people have got it. I know we're post determined, aren't we, with that? So wonderful, thank you so much. So I can't remember what I'm doing next Wednesday because it's sort of the week after. I should probably show you some techniques with it. I wonder, there's so much more with Kumihimo that I can do. If there's anything specific that you wanted me to show, I did a speedy spiral bracelet today, and I might well show that. It's quite a simple technique, and I've got a kit available in that as well, so I might show that next week, or our lovely new angel that we've done. Yeah, I'll get my scheduling sorted and be in touch with that. So thank you so much, guys. It's been good to see everybody here. Thank you. I really appreciate that. Went on longer than I thought. I've still got loads I could say about Kumihimo. So I will say no more and let you get off and sort your tea, and I'll catch up with you all next Wednesday. So thank you so much, everybody. Catch up with you next week. So bye.